Today's Cyberpunk 2077 lore is sponsored by War Thunder. The Cyberpunk 2077 universe is home to some of the most vile characters in all of fiction, a natural consequence of a dystopian future centered around soulless corporations, AI rampancy, and technological dissociation. 2077 and Phantom Liberty alone give us a broad perspective of the horrors both humanity and AI are capable of. But what many don't realize is that this world and its monsters go back decades to a canon tabletop RPG released in the 1980s by Mike Pondsmith, Cyberpunk 2013. Since then, there have been 3 canon core editions and supplements upon supplements to expand the lore. So today, we will be diving deep into the lore of the most depraved and terrifying characters the Cyberpunk universe has to offer, from sadistic gangs and XBD Scrollers to corporate sociopaths and even serial killers that stalk the dark alleys of Night City. So if you enjoy disturbing lore and dystopian horror, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of my channel. Without any further delay, let's begin. At the top of the food chain, corporate executives aren't just powerful, they are often cruel, ruthless humans whose ambition and greed twist them into architects of suffering. These supposed leaders abuse their immense authority, manipulate wars, order assassinations, and authorize operations that leave behind landscapes of corpses. They see people as mere expendable tools, and the value of their lives only being that of what they can sacrifice it for. This pattern becomes apparent as we view archive conversations throughout Night City. In an exchange between John Omar and Samuel Teasel, we learn that these 2 Militech veterans were recently demanded to vacate their living quarters. Despite their service, they were treated as expendable, an utter disregard for loyalty and sacrifice. A conversation originating from Corpo, Jen Minette, emphasizes neglect of a robot's decision algorithm lacking proper integration of Asimov's laws that ensure robotic safety and ethics. Dismissing these concerns, emphasizing cost effectiveness over safety, a decision that puts all of humanity at risk when there's bloodthirsty AI sitting behind the black wall. Hell, even the City Hall treasurer of Night City would rather hire Maelstrom to execute his secretary than find another way to replace her or keep her quiet. We could identify shards like this for days before running out, but let's go ahead and take a look at some particular characters that stand out. Biotechnica, being a corporation based on biological research, tends to give power to rather immoral scientists. But even with the bar set so low, very few can be considered as vile as Dr. Joanne Koch. This genetics engineer acts as a regional director of the Night City research facilities. Despite feigning humanity, empathy, struggle, and the likes during high-profile interviews, she holds few, if any, reservations about her work, whether it be the use of humans as guinea pigs or executing incriminating employees. There is likely no line Joanne hasn't or isn't willing to cross. All of her work leaves behind a trail of blood and bodies, all for the prospect of breakthroughs that can rack in eddies for her in Biotechnica. Her biggest mistake would be the execution of Project Nightingale, in which she used members of a Red Ochre nomad clan as test subjects, resulting in the horrific death of 70 members. This was the first and last time she was incapable of offering hush money to sweep the disaster under the rug. The nomads wanted blood, and the mercenary V answered. To highlight just how evil Joanne is even in comparison to other scientists, look no further than this conversation between her and Dr. Fiona Vargas. Joanne reaches out requesting logistical support for her quote-unquote groundbreaking Nightingale program, in which Fiona responds stating that she regretted ever having to learn about this project and refuses to take part as it violates her medical, patient, and human ethics, telling her to never contact her again. Keep in mind, this is the same Fiona that runs the Talent Academy in Dogtown, cyber-modifying young child athletes for financial gain. In the full disclosure side quest involving Sandra Dorset, V learns of a project known as Operation Carpe Noctem, a decrypted shard that reveals a pivotal piece of incriminating evidence against Night Corp. This document outlines experimentation using an AI system named CN07, designed to alter neural pathways and influence behavior without the subject's awareness. Through subliminal conditioning, an unaware employee was transformed from a calm and empathetic person to displaying acute psychopathic behavior, going as far as to strangle a colleague over a coffee dispute, then jumping out the 16th window of the research facility, highlighting that not even a corporation's own employees are exempt from inhumane practices. If anything, it makes them more accessible. But there are two CEOs responsible for far more death than all others combined: Saburo Arasaka and Donald Lundy. Saburo, the formidable CEO of the Arasaka Corporation, was driven by a vision of restoring Japan's imperial glory and inserting dominance over the Western world. His disdain for the US has fueled ruthless methods void of empathy. Saburo is responsible for weaponizing the Soul Killer program, monetizing it as immortality, and various abuses of power and political manipulation. It is even rumored that the reason legendary solo Shaitan hates Arasaka is a result of Saburo's personal cruelty to his family, specifically his mother and sister, though to what extent this has never been elaborated on. We just know that it was vile enough to fuel a lifelong obsession against Saburo, so much so that Shaitan is willing to suffer cyberpsychosis and surviving at sea alone for years, all in order to make it to Japan so he could make Saburo suffer. Donald Lundy harbored ambitions of establishing his corporation as a preeminent global military power. He authorized political manipulation in foreign countries, Project Sinosure that tampered dangerously with AI, undermined the US government, entangled himself in national affairs, and often abandoned his own veterans. Donald and Saburo were two sides of one coin, and both more often than not made their natural corporate rivalry personal instead of strictly business. This mindset is what led to the Fourth Corporate War and the loss of millions of lives. Speaking of corporate executives like Saburo Arasaka, he found his roots as an Imperial Japanese Navy pilot during World War II, long before he ever had a corporate army at his whim. And we have today's sponsor, War Thunder, to thank for the opportunity to immerse ourselves as a flying ace just like Saburo. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, a global battleground where over 2,500 meticulously recreated vehicles collide in air, land, and sea warfare. From 1920s biplanes to modern battle tanks, everything is rendered with stunning realism, boasting a comprehensive customization system with countless camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles, including community-created ones. But I'm not just talking about pretty models. Every internal system is modeled: engines, ammo racks, fuel tanks, even crew members. No hit points, just real damage with very real consequences. There's even an X-ray kill cam that shows you exactly how your shell tore through the enemy's armor, what systems failed, what crew members didn't make it, and why that massive Russian MBT is now a burning husk. You can jump in and play across 3 modes: arcade, realistic, and simulator. Personally, I lean into realistic mode. It's got that unforgiving edge. Every mistake matters and every hit is earned. It should have been obvious from the harsh environment of cyber TTRPGs that I'd enjoy War Thunder. And thanks to the hard work of the developers, War Thunder is extremely accessible, requiring nothing but a mouse and keyboard, controller, or even your phone now with the mobile release on iOS and Android. Now, here's the real big news. If you're new to War Thunder, or you haven't played in the last 6 months, there's a limited time bonus pack waiting for you on PC and consoles, including 3 premium vehicles from the US lineup, the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account time to jumpstart your War Thunder career. All of that is free, just for signing up and logging in. Just use my links in the pinned comment or description and go join a worldwide community of over 70 million players. You won't regret the breathtakingly immersive experience that's been tailored for fans of military history. And now let's return to cyberpunk history. While high-profile targets with unchecked power often draw the majority of hate and attention, some walk the streets unnoticed. Individuals driven by obsession, madness, or pure sadism. Serial killers are not anomalies in Night City. They are a consequence of a society stripped from morality. There are many active during the 2020s, time of Red, and our time in 2077. In the depths of Haywood, along the coastline, southwest of the pumping station, you can find what appears to be an abandoned makeshift shack. While this isn't particularly a standout structure, what's inside is. You'll find 2 bodies, one victim and the other the perpetrator, a man riddled with cyberware named Leo Wood. On him, you'll find a shard that details his struggle and demise. Leo is a veteran of Militech Armed Forces, and just like we spoke about earlier, was likely abandoned and tossed back into civilian life with no aid or transition period by the corporation. He was abandoned and with no counseling, still believed he was at war, a very real struggle amongst many veterans across history and fiction. He had contacted his former Militech captain, stating that he was behind enemy lines and that Operation Terror was active, the objective being to foment civilian unrest and discourage support of insurgents. But all of this was being done to his own country's civilians, with Leo being none the wiser. He scrolled brain dances of torture tactics used across 5 civilians he had abducted, saving the files and spreading them across Night City, in hopes of others uncovering them. The captain attempted to talk Leo down to no avail, and so he decided he had to play along with Leo's delusion in a lethal manner. He reported to Leo that an enemy unit was approaching his position, and under no circumstances could he be captured alive. Leo, in his undying loyalty, followed his new orders, ending his own life. A tragic and gruesome story, one that largely resembles the events of episode 10 of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, a story arc in which a former soldier transitions into a serial killer, using the same terror tactics he had once used in the jungles of South America, but on civilians instead. North of the Skyline and Republic Data Term, in the downtown city center, we can find a rather unsettling scene. A bloodied camera bipod, bloodstains scattered across the pavement, items strewn about showing signs of a struggle, and finally, the source of it all. The body of Len Borowitz stuffed into a crate with an archive conversation. Sorry, got this number by email. Apparently you have information about the serial killer I've been writing about. Correct. First-hand information. Do you know him? I do. Very well, in fact. Since birth, you could even say. I read your articles. I want to help. Let's meet downtown. I'll send you the exact coordinates. Thanks. You're not only helping me, but all of NC. Oh, believe me, the pleasure is all mine. You may say it's 2020 hindsight, but how Lean didn't pick up on the various red flags riddling this conversation makes me question her credentials as an investigative journalist. Let's just hope not everyone falls for this method. The Baba Yaga is a prominent figure in Slavic mythology, often depicted as a fearsome old woman who dwells deep in the forest. While she can often have an ambiguous role, she has also been depicted as a cannibalistic witch who kidnaps and eats children, and it seems to be that Night City has its very own, well, had. In Wellsprings Haywood, a shack can be found underneath an overpass that has no entrances besides a hidden crawl space, perfect for a child to fit through without any troubles. Within, the body of a netrunner with a white faceplate can be found, surrounded by blood, cages, and dead hostages. The shard on the body reveals this netrunner's name as 8 Yaga, a clear homage to the Baba Yaga, made all the more clear by her particularly disturbing manner of hunting. 8 Yaga would hunt children through the net, luring them in with promises of treats, only to cage and eventually kill them. Her final target was a boy named Johnny looking for his sister Maggie. Unknown to 8 Yaga, Johnny was a fictional persona of a man hunting her. When she gave her location to the boy, the hunter revealed himself and promised revenge for all the children she had flatlined. It seems this mysterious person was successful. Whether they were a vigilante or someone with a personal vendetta, Night City can rest just a bit easier. In Cyberpunk 2077, we typically expect danger in the form of guns and cyberware, but there's a side job that dives deeper, beyond meaningless violence, beyond Chrome, into something much more disturbing, aptly titled The Hunt. Shortly after their work for Elizabeth Perales, the word of V's legendary detective work begins to spread, up until it reaches the ear of a man named River Ward, who goes on to contact V with a new gig, one with a trail of blood following a man named Anthony Harris, aptly named the Peter Pan serial killer, for his pattern of luring away young boys. But what makes this all the more disturbing is the fact that Anthony Harris has already been caught. Despite the fact he lays in a deep comatose following his confrontation with the NCPD, he remains a threat. It's not a race to prevent what he will do, but to prevent the consequences of what he has already done. V and River race against a clock they're not even sure of, reverse engineering easily missed details, and analyzing brain dances to track down River's missing nephew, Randy, all while unraveling the disturbing psyche and practices of Harris. His victims would all be funneled in an attempt to recover from their drug addictions through a website called Drugs Are Bad. Further investigation leads to a website called Tony's Shelter and an empty promise of rehabilitation to all of the desperate people searching. Here, Anthony's perspective of his victims is revealed, a relation akin to that of a farmer and his cattle, livestock to either be nurtured under his control or put down, all of which is done through disturbing incubators that dump HGH and steroids into his sedated victims. Through the reliving of brain dances, V experiences the source of Anthony's fractured psyche, trauma inflicted by an abusive household.
Yeah, Dad?
You forget something? I asked you a question!
I don't know.
Choline and methionine levels. See anything odd?
Too low?
You were supposed to check before school. What are you gonna say for yourself? Cow's gonna die because of you. Gonna kill it like you killed your mama.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize, just dial up her hormones.
And from others around him, such as a teacher who torments Anthony about the suicide of his father and his own behavioral issues.
What's the matter with you, Anthony? I have to report this. I hope you understand that. This isn't normal behavior. Anthony, you killed Liam's turtle.
He was sick. He wouldn't eat, stayed in his shell. I just wanted to help him.
By injecting him with HGH? What were you thinking? Is this something your father taught you?
Fuck you.
What did you just say? Okay, I've had enough. Principal's gonna hear about this. Your foster parents, too. I see. Like father, like son.
Don't you dare talk about my dad!
That's right, you little shit. I know it all. Farm failed. Dad put a bullet in his head.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! You can't talk about my dad, you prick! You can't! You can't! He was sick, weak. I just wanted to help him.
All of which leads to the final brain dance, a first-person perspective of Harris calmly pursuing one of his escaped victims, one paralyzed from the waist down as a result of all the hormones and drugs circulating within their blood, trapped in their own body, and an inescapable nightmare.
And where are you up to, Mike? Come here, you rascal. You'll hurt yourself. Tony'll take good care of you. Easy now.
One of the first serial killers introduced to players during the 2020s was a man named Joshua Brightman, also known as the Night Stalker, a name that would be difficult to merit in such a violent location. He's a man armed to the teeth and then some more, and had committed numerous murders weekly. Before his initial visit to prison, he was a tech freak, following the development of cyberware with a calculating intensity, going all out on cyberware purchases such as body plating, cyber limbs, and nearly every legal and illegal piece of cyber tech you could think of. But the most disturbing fact about Brightman, is he wouldn't want you blaming his cold, malicious intent on cyber psychosis. He takes pride in the fact he was a psycho long before cyberware was made available to him, and he naturally has the behavior of a calculated, Hannibal-like killer. He's naturally stealthy, and delights in scaring his victims before he kills them. Jack the Ripper carved his way into infamy for a series of gruesome and ritualistic murders, most of which targeted female sex workers, and it seemed that a copycat was emulating him during the 2020s in Night City. They targeted Joy Girls all over, and by 2020 were responsible for at least 100 deaths. The target was identifiable by their clothing, long old-style 18th century overcoats and silk top hats. But a shocking truth would come to light. These murders were not committed by a singular deranged serial killer, but rather the NCPD had determined it was an entire gang of posers stalking the night, though nothing concrete has been heard since this era. Maelstrom is one of, if not the worst gang operating in Night City. They have an obsession with cyber technologies and the net, leading its members to frequently undergo extensive illegal body modification, more often than not leading to cyber psychosis. They feared their own flesh and lack any basic moral foundation, meaning their members are often behind some of the most depraved acts known to humankind. In the northern part of Northside Watson, in the factory districts of Night City, you can come across a location with a barely illegal neon sign that gives us a look into the horrifying nature of Maelstrom. The scene is already gruesome without context, but the shard found on a dead corpo is guaranteed to make you sick. This conversation details an exchange of services with a corpo that came to the gangsters with a request. He wanted a girl, young, new, fresh, so he was provided one. A freshly kidnapped girl from the street. But disturbingly, this girl was his own daughter that had run away weeks prior. And when everything was said and done and he saw her, the shock killed him. A heart attack in that very instance. The Maelstromers obviously didn't care. They found it amusing. Went to gossip about it right after tearing out his biomonitor to ensure trauma team wouldn't get the ping and respond. No reflection, no remorse, just business as usual. But it seems with the condition of the crime scene, that trauma team did indeed show up and deal out some much needed justice to Maelstrom. But not every monster in Night City hides behind chrome or lurks in the shadows. Some walk openly through Japantown, untouchable and unchecked. Such is the case for Jotaro Shobo, a lowlife with high connections and a kill count that makes him more than just any other Tiger Claw. At first glance, Jotaro is a pimp, but dig beneath the surface and you'll find something far more vile. He doesn't just run braindance studios, he manufactures snuff BDs, real deaths, real victims, and the girls he uses, many of them are kidnapped, addicts, and forcibly implanted with neural wear that traps them in living hell. He views people as disposable content for profit. He doesn't blink when they scream, doesn't flinch when they beg. To him, every ounce of suffering is just another data point on the editing timeline. This lack of empathy earned him the title Devil of Kabuki. In the side job, Woman of La Mancha, V is hired by Fixer Padre to eliminate Jotaro, a gig that comes with purpose. Even in a city where death is cheap and violence sells, Jotaro stands out because he doesn't kill for territory or power. He kills for fun, for the camera, and for views. And that makes him one of the most viscerally evil men V ever puts in the ground. In the vast expanse of the Badlands, nomads are often seen as the last bastion of freedom, lands bound by loyalty, survival, and the open road. But not all who ride the highways uphold these ideals. Some have forsaken their codes, becoming predators in the wasteland. One such faction is that of Raph and Shiv, outcast from nomad society, shunned for crimes too vile to ignore. Among them, the Wraiths stand out as a particularly brutal faction. Operating mostly at night, they raid settlements, ambush travelers, and even target other nomad groups. Their leader? A man only known as Dog Killer, a reputation built upon some of the worst actions the Badlands has ever seen, symbolized in his cloak made of human skin. But this vile behavior doesn't end with the Wraiths. Born into a nomad pack, a young man grew up never knowing for sure which members were his parents. As he got older, he was chosen by the chief techie of the pack as an apprentice, and began to team the intricacy of maintaining the pack's vehicles and cyberware. However, as his talent grew, two passions emerged: explosives and looking after dogs. This earned him the name CyberDog. He trained his pack's canines as sentries and began implanting them with custom cyberware. But at the age of 17, a mysterious corporate ambush slaughtered his entire nomad group. CyberDog alone survived, and vengeance became his life's mission. On the streets he thrived, repairing gear, upgrading cyberware, and experimenting further with cyber-enhanced animals. Eventually, Militech took notice. They offered him sources and a lab, in exchange for loyalty. He gave them cyberdogs for security, but behind their backs, he built something darker, a project titled Cerberus, a cyberform hound packing organic intelligence and a warhead in its chest. And when Militech refused to reveal the name of the Corp that had murdered his family, CyberDog made his point the only way he knew how. His creation, Cerberus, ran straight into the VIP box and detonated. During the confusion, he slipped away from the facilities and returned to the streets, taking the design of his new blast hounds with him. So yes, this dude rewired dog brains into explosive terrorist weapons. Would it be controversial to say he has some issues? Not to mention the echoes of his legacy in Phantom Liberty, Cerberus units, and Project Cynosaur. While not quite the same, I'm sure Militech took inspiration from CyberDog's betrayal. Braindances are an escape, a vice, and for some, a descent into depravity. While many use BDs for harmless thrills, there's an underground market where scrollers seek the most twisted experiences imaginable. Recording of pain, terror, and death, being so morally void that it can even corrupt the bond between a son and father. Gottfried Pearson, a seasoned braindance editor, built a lucrative empire by refining and distributing illicit XBDs. His son, Frederick, followed in his footsteps, becoming both apprentice and accomplice. Together, they didn't just edit footage, they curated experiences of suffering, enhancing the emotional and sensory impact for their twisted clientele. Their operations were deeply entwined with the Maelstrom gang, providing them with protection and a steady supply of raw material. Despite their claims of merely processing content, evidence suggests that they were actively involved in sourcing and commissioning new recordings, showing a disturbing enthusiasm for their work. In the gig, Dirty Biz, fixer Regina Jones tasked V with retrieving an unedited XBD that could shed light of a person's son. The trail leads to Pearson's studio in Watson, guarded by Maelstrom operatives. Upon infiltrating the facility, V discovers Gottfried and Frederick engrossed in their work, seemingly indifferent to the atrocities they've perpetrated. Confronted, they plead ignorance, claiming they only edit what they're given. However, shards and messages found within the studio reveal their deeper involvement and lack of remorse. Their operations extended beyond editing. They were integral to the production and distribution of some of the most heinous content in Night City. Their actions weren't born of necessity, but of choice, driven by profit and perversion. And that is exactly why both deserve to be on the receiving end of Silverhand's Malorian. In Vista del Rey, Haywood, a hidden shack within an alley can be found and snuck into through the ceiling. Within the shack, you'll find a disturbing scene: empty cans, blood staining the floor, shelves of beef, and a man chained to a chair with a bursted stomach right in front of a plate of meat. This man is Jax Kermith, a BD scroller known for fattening people up with scop to their limits. Yeah, so what happened to him? Well, sometime before his death, he received an anonymous request from a quote-unquote fan, requesting a special BD to take his typical braindances a step further, using meat instead of scop and until the person's stomach burst. Jay was more than happy to entertain this production for the right price, and so a time, location, and price was set. But when the time came for the cast to arrive, Jax discovered he himself was the cast and victim of his new XBD, forcing him to eat until his stomach could no longer handle it, and burst. This has to be one of the most disgusting fates I've come across during my time in Night City. But ultimately, there are two characters more vile than any other in all of Cyberpunk 2077 lore, those being Solomon Reed and Alex. Why? Well, it's for stealing any hopes of romancing Aurora Cassell. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this dive into the darkest figures Night City has to offer. Whether you're chasing glory in a TA/TU or painting kill markers on the side of a Spitfire, War Thunder delivers that rush of tactical combat better than any other military game out there, and you can play it right now for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. Use the links in the pinned comment or video description to sign up. New and returning players on PC and console get a massive bonus pack with premium vehicles, currency, and that exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator. But remember, this is only for a limited time, so don't wait, get in the fight. And that is everything I have to say about the most vile characters of Cyberpunk 2077 lore. I hope you all enjoyed and found this video educational. I really enjoyed putting this one together, and it's been a long time coming. There's many more characters that I could have showed in this video, but I think I got the general point across. There's no shortage of evil in the Cyberpunk universe, so please let me know all your thoughts down below. A huge thanks to all the channel members up on screen. Without your ongoing support, finding the motivation to make videos would be far more difficult. Just knowing I've had chooms like you backing me for so long now means a lot, far more than I could ever describe. So seriously, thank you to every channel member, subscriber, viewer, and even hater. Make sure to have a great week, and I will see you later, chooms.